All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Got a great one for you. So, it looks like Fox News is all in on just giving a reach around to Ron DeSantis, and they're also snubbing Trump and perhaps being more aggressive against him than I've ever seen them be. So there's quite a bit to say about that. We'll get to that in a little bit. We also have some new results just came out on these various studies that are being done on the 4-day work week, and the findings are astonishing. I mean, they're really something. And not only is it good from the perspective of the worker, but honestly, even from the perspective of the companies themselves, from management, from the owners, even they might take a look at this and be like, I don't know, man. Maybe that's the future. I mean, how big would it be if we moved to a standard 4-day work week and everybody gets, I mean, that's so many more days off per year. People would be so much happier if we moved to that. So we'll talk about that as well. And then later on, we have quite a story about how stem cell treatment is out here pulling off miracles, just curing illnesses. So we'll get to that. Let's go ahead and jump into it here. So I want to start with Trump. Did one of his Mar-a-Lago, I'm president / I'm not president, but I'm going to act like I'm president speeches, and talking about, what he's going to do in 2024. And this one caught my eye because it's a step above and beyond even what happened the last time he was in office. So let's listen.
We will go after the radical Marxist prosecutors who are abolishing cash bail, refusing to charge crimes, and surrendering our cities to violent criminals. They have surrendered like never before. I will direct the DOJ to open civil rights investigations into radical left prosecutors' offices, such as those in Chicago, LA, and San Francisco, to determine whether they have illegally engaged in race-based enforcement of the law. I will also...
So just to pause there for a second, just so you understand what he's saying. He's saying in these radical left Marxist cities, the laws are actually biased in favor of minorities, in favor of black people. That if you commit a crime and you're black, they're like, bro, we'll let you go because you're black. But if you're white and you commit a crime, well, then maybe there'll be some punishment. This is the claim he's making. So he wants to do a civil rights investigation to determine if they're going too lenient on black criminals in all these Marxist left radical cities. Okay, I don't know what world these people live in. I don't know what world he lives in.
Offices such as those in Chicago, LA, and San Francisco to determine whether they have illegally engaged in race-based enforcement of the law. I will also...
There's one, if you talk to a black person in the U.S., the first thing they'll tell you is, this criminal justice system is so biased in favor of us, bro. Very widely held belief that black people get away with a lot more stuff than white people.
Also work with Congress to give the victims of their Marxist policies the right to sue local officials for harm and suffering, and it has been great that they have caused. If your small business is pillaged because shoplifting goes unpunished, if you're brutally attacked by a violent felon released without bail or bond, then you will be entitled to massive damages. Fifth, in cities where there has been a complete breakdown of law and order, where the fundamental right of our citizens are being intolerably violated, I will not hesitate to send in federal assets, including the National Guard, until safety is restored.
So basically, he did a video message here, this speech, where he's like, if I get elected again, we're going full police state. We'll do full, martial law, authoritarianism, and he's doing it under the guise of, well, these radical Marxist left, cities and states, they're overrun with violent criminals, and so we need to send in the military to, get that under control. Yeah, that's exactly what people want to hear. The guy who believes he won the last election and tried to overthrow it and spearheaded the whole January 6th attempted insurrection thing. That's what people want to hear. Yeah, that guy's going to become president again and then make the country a police state. That I'm sure they're going to protect everybody's civil liberties and their freedoms and their constitutional rights under that system. I'm sure we have nothing to fear from that. I mean, I don't know. Why would he even release this now, right? Like, it seems to me like he's talking from the George Floyd era where, George Floyd was murdered by the cops, and then there were, like, plenty of peaceful protests, but then also riots that broke out. Like, it sounds like he hopped in a time machine or his brain glitched, and he's like, I'm just going to give a rant like that's happening right now. That's what I'll do. And, what's the point of this? I don't... What's the point of this? The point is just, Donald Trump, like a police state. I would like to have a police state. And also, I love when he keeps calling them Marxist. Can anybody just take a moment in an interview with Trump and ask him, what's Marxism? Like, give me your definition of Marxism. I would love to hear it. It would be hilarious to hear Trump try to define that. Oh, it would be glorious. Like, and I don't even understand this argument of, like, in the blue states, they've made murder legal and stuff. Like, that seems to be the implication. They're not literally saying that, but the implication seems to be like, oh, bro, everybody's running wild. No, what's happened is, in some states, the prisons are so overcrowded that they've, like, started to do more, instead of doing pre-trial detention, they've started to release people before their trials because, again, the prisons are so overcrowded, they kind of really don't have a choice. And so a lot of people look at those circumstances, and it could be somebody who is a violent criminal who gets out from pre-trial detention, even though in theory they'll be back in a courtroom and then eventually probably back behind bars. They look at that and they think, oh my God, these, lefties are now pro-murderers and pro-rapists and, not in favor of punishing them or not in favor of punishing, whatever, larceny, burglary, theft, whatever it may be. And I mean, that's just not accurate. I've always said about myself, when it comes to the drug war, I mean, I just think the whole concept is absurd, and I don't think these things we're locking people up for are actual crimes. I don't think if you're selling weed or even selling cocaine or taking the substance or whatever, I don't view that as a crime. I view that no different than the company that makes whiskey and sells it, or Monster Energy or whatever it may be. And so for those, it's like, I would go way more lenient. But when it comes to actual crimes, yeah, I'm tough on crimes that I think should be actual crimes. Murder, rape, whatever. But also corporate crimes. And that's the biggest irony of all for Donald Trump here, is that this guy doesn't even believe white-collar crime is a thing. Right? This is the guy who dropped all of the new regulations and dropped the lawsuits against the predatory payday loan industry. I mean, these people are predators. These people are criminals. These people screwed people relentlessly. Wall Street. How many people on Wall Street did the Trump administration go after? These are people who had fraud as a business model. As a direct result of their actions for greed and money, you had millions of Americans lose their home. Did he go after the corporate criminals? No. So they don't even believe corporate crime is a thing. They aid and abet the corporate criminals. War criminals. Remind me again who Donald Trump led into his administration. Oh, that's right, John Bolton. John Bolton, the neocon, warmonger, bloodthirsty criminal who was one of the architects of the Iraq War, which led to minimum hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians dying, millions displaced, $7 trillion wasted. This is a guy he had as a top advisor in his administration. He hired Gina Haspel, one of the architects of the torture program. So, I'm tough on crime. I'm super tough on crime. Unless, of course, the criminals are war criminals, corporate criminals, white-collar criminals, or January 6thers, because those are the people who he literally talks about. Maybe I'll pardon them. Wow. So when people commit a crime on your behalf, they're totally innocent, did nothing wrong. So, look, what he means is, let's just boil this down to its simplest form here. What he means is, blue cities and blue states, I will just make you a police state. That's what I'm going to do. It's got nothing to do with, like, law and order and protecting the citizenry or any of that garbage. That's the cover story for I'm just going to create a police state. I will do total, lockdown type stuff. I will, next time I get a crack at it, I'll go full dictator. I'll go full authoritarian. So, there you go. Again, I don't know what prompted him to do this, but this is not exactly the best pitch when you're running for president again now, is it? If you put me in there, I'll be even worse. Because remember, he threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act in 2020, basically deploy the U.S. military in the streets of the U.S., which is terrifyingly authoritarian and unconstitutional. He threatened to do it. But ultimately, the generals sort of backed him down from that. We're like, we're not doing that. That's not our job. Our job is not to police the streets of the United States of America. Well, now he's acting like, no, I'll do it. I mean, it sounds like he wants to do it on day one. Just turn us into a colossal police state. More so than we currently are. So anyway, low-key terrifying stuff, if I'm being honest. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.